So Guy, tell me about your organisation.
Right, so I represent something called the Global Destination Sustainability Index, and the GDS-Index is it's a collaborative partnership around how we make destinations more sustainable.
And when we say sustainable, what do we mean by that?
So how do we make them better places to live in, work in, visit, meet in, and play in? So that means, economic development, social development, and environmental development.
Very interesting time to be looking at
exactly.
sustainability, particularly because the world's population is migrating to urban centres, isn't it?
Well, climate change is creating a lot of movement, as well as just social change, right? So people going to the cities. Cities aren't always the most sustainable things, but they have the potential to be some very sustainable places to live. So how do we make sure that a city who has a strategy is aligned to a tourism or an events strategy of that city? And sadly, in most places around the world, it's not today. So we are helping cities understand how to bring that together, and then how the meetings/tourism industry can be a catalyst for the city's sustainability vision.
Interesting. So bringing all those strands together in a coordinated approach. What are the big talking points then? What are these kind of news stories within your industry?
So that's an interesting one. So first of all, as I said, there's not that many cities that have a proper strategy, right? So cities, unlike Gothenburg where we are today, and I've been working with for 10 years on that, they're examples. So how do we use that example of a Gothenburg or a Copenhagen or a Sydney to influence others? So that means they need to get a group of actors together, because a destination is many actors. There's a city, there's the DMO, the Destination Management Organization, the Convention Bureau, there's obviously the clients, there's the providers. So we need to kind of bring those stakeholders together, really, and co-create a strategy. So what are the issues? Are you somewhere where climate change is very, very affecting you? Or is it a water issue if it's Cape Town? Is it an equity, a social equity or an equality issue, as some cities face? Is it an over-tourism issue? So once you kind of looked at those issues from a city, then you can start to think about, well, what's the vision of success look like if we fix those? So kind of creating that vision of success, and then, okay, good. What are the experiments we need to carry out? We like to use the word experiment to get to an end result.
I love that word experiment, because people always say, what's the strategy? And I think the strategy always makes it seem like it's a guaranteed success, but I much prefer experiment. It's much more entrepreneurial, isn't it?
But also, I learned this from someone, and he said, things go wrong, and in science, we do a test, it doesn't give us the results, and we tweak it, and we carry on, and eventually it gives us a result, or not, or it proves a point. That's not the theory, the hypothesis that's going to deliver us social progress. Yeah. So that's what it should be really with destinations. And you've got to, let's do a marketing campaign, right? So Monaco have this amazing campaign called Green is the New Glam, right? It's about communicating that luxury can be sustainable. Okay, they've launched that. It works really well for the visitor, but it doesn't work so well for the business travel, the events organizer. So experiment, we'll tweak it, we'll change the message for them. So that's what we want cities to be doing, is rapid, kind of agile type of approach to creating experience.
And could you imagine a scenario where if cities, like Sydney you mentioned, like Copenhagen, like Gothenburg, become so good at it that actually it becomes a point of almost edge and competition, that actually, because it becomes a calling card in itself, a commercial calling card?
And it is today. Gothenburg, look at in this index, they're number one and have been 3 years running, and probably will be again this year. But they use that very competitively, Them and Copenhagen, people like that, they've won pretty much every major meeting about sustainability. So you have different client bases, right? So you have the client base that is about sustainability, a C40, something about sustainable food. Well, they're going to want to go to someone who they align with, who they know can support them to have links with the government, with local business. They've got that network, so it's just easy for that organizer to come in. So first is that. Secondly, you have other organizations that have a commitment to make their events more sustainable. So they role to them. But more and more that organisation, whatever industry it's about, has something to do with sustainability, right? Your food, your concrete, your green buildings, I was just talking to nephrology, and they want to, how do we make medicine more sustainable, socially, environmentally. So cities that can create those linkages win. And that's how you bring value to your city, right? Bringing in new knowledge, creating more entrepreneurial, attracting investment. So that's where the kind of economic aspects of what we do is all about. So.
In terms of running your index, your organisation, what are some of the high points? What are some of the challenges?
So I think the same really. So the challenges are, some organisations, destination organisations are small, they don't have the knowledge, and so they don't know how to move forward. They don't have any relationship with the city around sustainability, so they don't go anywhere. So what we do is coming and we coach them, show them examples of how to do that. We kind of force them actually to make the linkages because they have to have those linkages to get the data to fill out the index. So, and then that's when we start to see the magic. And so looking at somewhere like Glasgow, we've seen how the index has been a catalytic for them, and they created these linkages and then created a whole strategy around sustainability and won new events and brought in, I can't remember what it is.
And half their murder rate by making crime a health problem, which is, I'm Glaswegian, so for me, like this kind of entrepreneurship where you're talking about it being a mass effort from all points of entrepreneurship and expertise, I think is the way cities should be governed and run. And I think it's very exciting to think that you are creating a platform where that can help, not just commercially, but in another way. In terms of communicating with your members, kind of internally and externally, what do you find works? Or doesn't work, maybe?
Yeah, so in terms of communicating with those members, it's case studies. People like the case studies, right? They want the stories. Video, what we're doing here is very powerful and we need to use that more. So, again, people's time's short. So, I really like the kind of the 1 minute style video that, maybe the World Economic Forum is using a lot at the moment. Very simple. It's quite a low cost production, but it's easy, dynamic way of communicating your messages and getting people to buy into the case studies and data. I always say facts and faces. You need a face, make it personal. You want a story, but you need the data to kind of give the credibility. So how you bring those two together is what's key.
We always say story before data. It's exactly the same thing, but when you put them together, it's very powerful, isn't it? So for you in the future, what would you like with your own organisation? What would you like the future to look like? Yeah,
good point. So the kind of 10x growth type of thing, we got 50 cities today. That's I just say we just finished our first phase. Really, we've grown. We developed the platform. We now got to take that to 500 cities. And someone was around the corner here. One of the development gurus. He said, "Why are you thinking so small?" It's like 10x is it's 100x. You need to be thinking out. I was like, wow, It's like, really, if you think how many cities there are in the world who need to have sustainable tourism, sustainable business.
All of them.
All of them. That's the answer, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. Yeah. And I suppose the question is, though, also, I run a small business, so I completely understand that when you feel like you're serving your, parishioners really well, the thought that suddenly you might have 100 to serve that well is kind of scary. Do you have thoughts about how you want to make that happen?
Well, I think there's two things. It's, we have a purpose, right? And you already hit the nail. The purpose is to get cities to create a strategy and implement it successfully. Yeah. And every city has to do it. That's the vision, right? That doesn't mean that everyone has to be part of a member. And that's never going to happen anywhere, is it? So we're really focused on looking at collaboration and outside networks that we can then take our message to other networks and take other people on the journey and learn from them, obviously. So we have a partnership. We're just firming up now with the UNWTO, the World Tourism Organization, and we're looking at how our work can inspire regional destinations and national organizations. And we're very focused on cities, but that doesn't mean that what we're learning in cities is not very applicable to rural or nature-based destinations, and
And
vice versa.
And I think never has it been more necessary, because I think people are coming to terms with that the big government in the countries that has it doesn't work. And so actually, where is this structure and policy making and doing, I like to call it the doing, where is it going to come from? And actually, I'm a great believer that it's better to come from industry and expertise and passionate people than it is to come from politicians.
I mean, and you've nailed it. You know, the failure of the nation states to work on sustainability, we can see with many national states around the world, but cities are in action. So even though the US policy is terrible, look at what's happening in Washington or Denver or San Francisco. It's out there. You know, in Russia, look what St. Petersburg's doing now around sustainability. You know, so there's a lot of really amazing stuff coming from cities. We already talked about people migrating to cities. They're going to become even busier. 50% of the world already live there. It's going to go up to 70%. So we feel that tourism and the meetings industry has to kind of really adapt to that. We've seen over-tourism happening. I live in Barcelona, right? We've seen it Venice, Amsterdam, Isle of Skye, Edinburgh. You know, so how do we listen to our ultimate stakeholder, which I always think is our citizen, of where we live, you know, and where we're operating our business? How do we listen to them and get them influenced in driving, wanting tourism, and how tourism in all its shapes and forms develops the city to make it a better place to live in, to work in, to meet in, to visit. So
Coming to a meeting like this, what's the benefit?
it's getting out your silo, isn't it? You know, so my world, you know, we're, you know, destinations and stuff. I come and listen to a challenge from a nephrology association, and I thought, oh, they got the same issues, you know, the same challenges, but they've done some different things about it. So it's that cross-learning, cross-sectoral, cross-silo chat, and yeah, that's what I kind of really get out of it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for talking to me. Appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.